Welcome to St Michael's Hill. Today I'm going to do a Meet the Fleet video. A few things. Firstly, the track that is in place laying on top of what I've currently already got is temporary for now, just because most of the fleet that I have at the moment are DC and the layout is wired for DCC, so I've just placed a piece of flexi-track on top of the existing track, which is why some of you may see that it looks a little bit odd. So to run through the fleet, I'm going to show you each locomotive one by one. None of them are sound fitted. It's something that maybe I'll do in the future, but right now for me there's a lot of time and money to be spent on other things, and buying speakers and sound chips for all of my locomotives is not something I'm looking to do at the moment. Most of the locomotives are still DCC ready. So I do need to buy chips for a lot of them. Some of them have been hardwired from old Hornby and Lima models, and some of them I have chips for that I still need to fit. So I'll run you through each locomotive and tell you what's what, and we'll go from there. First up is my Class 8, number 818 in BR Blue. This is a Bachmann model. It's DCC ready. I picked it up second hand from a local model shop, but it's in great condition, and will fit a DCC chip to it at some point. It's a great runner, runs very smooth even on DC, so I'm sure once it's fitted with a chip it'll be excellent. There's a lot of good detail on this. I know that a lot of people say it's not quite as good as the Hornby super detailed one, but compared to kind of a Railroad or an older Hornby or Lima one, it's really an excellent model. I'm really kind of pleased with how it looks. The second locomotive in the fleet is a Regional Railways Class 31, 31439. This is a Lima model. It's one of my more recent purchases. I got it for 30 quid off eBay. It's certainly okay. It probably needs a lot of work. There was some pretty dodgy weathering. You can still see a little bit of that on the exhaust on the roof. Really kind of coloured on with a marker. So I got it nice and cheap off of eBay, and it's something that I'll probably do a lot of work on and weather up. It runs very well. It's pretty immaculate apart from the dodgy weathering. It's a really good runner, especially for a Lima, so hopefully it's something that can be hardwired and detailed a little bit and brought up to standard for the rest of the fleet. As there's going to be a lot of regional railways stock on the layout, it's probably going to get a fair bit of use, potentially with a couple of Mark 1s or something like that, although obviously that won't necessarily fit within the station, so it'll probably be used mainly to kind of be in the sidings at the back with a couple of carriages perhaps. The next locomotive I have in the fleet is this Class 33051 Shakespeare Cliff. This is a limited edition Lima model from back in 1997, according to the certificate that came with it. It's a slightly different variation on the civil engineer's livery, with a lighter roof that was done for the farewell tour that this locomotive basically took up as kind of one of the last 33s that was still running. It's a fairly solid model in the fact that it's a good runner. I think it's a kind of a fairly good basic shape of a 33, although I'm no expert, and I believe that the Heljan model is probably better, but it's kind of the cost of this was, I think, £25 off of someone online, so it kind of worked out fairly cheap. This model is going to be part of a series that I'm putting together, detailing it, so we're going to replace the glazing the buffers and the buffer beam. Potentially look to do some kind of etched brass on the fans and the grills, and certainly kind of make the whole thing look a bit better with weathering and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of this particular model. The next model in the fleet is this very old Hornby Class 37 in BR Blue. It's a tricky one for me. This is one of the very first locomotives I had as a kid. So it's probably, I've probably had it now close to 30 years, and the model itself is probably 40 years old. I got it second hand, so it's something that I would quite like to keep, but I think as you've seen by it running into shot, it's not the best runner. I need to give it a good service, see how it comes up after that, but yeah, it's not something that I think is going to be able to be run reliably on the layout. As well as that, as a very old Hornby model, it's not very well detailed. The body shape of the Hornby 37s aren't, in my eyes, that great anyway. So it's a tricky one. I might try and do something with it. I might not. It's probably not something I'll get rid of though, as it kind of holds a personal sentimental value. So this Class 37 is, as you can see, in regional railways as well, Class 37 418. This is a Lima model that I've started to do a few upgrades on, so I've added some buffer beam detailing, although it's quite difficult to see in this shot, at one end, and I've also given it a kind of a heavy weathering. I'm fairly pleased with how it's kind of come out. I'm not sure if I meant maybe slightly over the top on some of the weathering, although I guess looking at the photos of the prototypes from back in the late 90s when they were pretty old, they did get pretty filthy at times. It's been DCC chipped, hardwired, using a Hornby decoder, which is why I'm not running it on this DC track. Generally pleased, and it will be something that appears on the layout quite often. I probably will maybe look to add a little bit more detailing if the detailing of the Class 33 goes well. This is my load haul Class 37710. It's a model by V-Trains, or Vi-Trains, and it's probably my most recent pickup in terms of locomotives. I got it off eBay for around 50 quid, which I thought was a really good deal. It needs to be weathered, but I have detailed one of the ends with the buffer beam pack. There are a few more details I need to add, but it's a really good model. It's compared to the last 37s, it's far above them, so I'm very happy with it. I like the shape of the 37 by V-Trains, and it runs really well, very smooth at slow speed. It's going to be featured a lot on the layout, I think, where the sidings at the back will be an EWS owned. I've zoomed out a little bit now for the slightly larger locomotives. First of which is the Lima 47827 in Virgin Trains livery. As you could probably hear there, it's quite a noisy runner, as a lot of the Lima locos were. It's pretty battered as a loco. The couplings are they're not functional. It doesn't run massively well, and its detailing needs a lot to be desired. But it's definitely something that I had around from a long time ago that I thought would be worth keeping hold of and trying to kind of do up a little bit, as I've done with some of my 47s. It is DCE. I'm not sure if I'm going to chip it for DCC just because the running of it's not great. I'll give it a service and see how it comes out. but if it's not running well in DC, there's probably not much point in hardwiring it, and we'll have to leave it, but we'll see how it comes out. This is my Lima class 47805, which is Bristol Bath Road. It's a model I've done quite a lot of work on. Unfortunately, it's not running at the moment, so that needs to be looked at, but it's a locomotive that I've resprayed into Intercity Swallow livery. It was before in the incorrect Lima Swallow livery with the beige stripe at the bottom, so I've resprayed that into Intercity white. I've detailed the buffer beams on one end using Bachmann 47 detailing parts, and then I've given it a light weathering, which I'm really pleased with. It's come out great. So this is my third Lima class 47 in Great Western livery. It's been DCC hardwired. It was a good runner on DC, so I decided to hardwire it. It was, I think, the first locomotive that I actually hardwired, maybe along with the Regional Railways 37 that you've seen. It needs similar detailing to the Intercity Swallow livery, so some weathering. I'll detail one of the ends with a Bachmann buffer beam detailing pack that I have spare, and I will probably also try and fit some crew into the cab and that sort of thing. I'll probably leave the numbering and the naming as is. That's something I also did with the Intercity Swallow livery we've just seen, so I've renamed and renumbered that one. The Great Western livery is probably my favourite livery of all time. I thought it was beautiful on the HSTs, and also quite enjoyed the 47. It's just clean and nice, and as it's local to the area that I'm looking to model, it was a must-have for me. This is my Railfreight distribution Lima class 47. It's my last of my class 47s from Lima, and I recently picked it up online for £30. It's been a locomotive I've been trying to get hold of for a while. Not necessarily the Lima version, but a Railfreight distribution 47. It's a bit of a temperamental runner. It's generally quite good at high speed, but at low speed it's a little bit difficult. So not obviously it's an old model, but I don't think it's been run before, or at least not much. So it probably just needs a good service and a bit of lubrication, and we should be good to go on it. Hopefully this is another one that I'll be detailing to the same sort of standards as the Intercity Swallow one, and I'll also hardwire a DCC chip into that as well. The next locomotive in the fleet is probably my favourite of all of the locomotives that I've got. It's a class 47 from Heljan in the Rail Express Systems livery. I really like the livery. I think it looks great on the 47 as well as the 86 that it run on, but I think it's just a very stylish livery, and looks great on the locomotive. It's a Heljan model, and I really like the Heljan 47, and the detailing is fairly good out of the box, and there's loads of additional parts that can be added and detailed. So it's not one that I have detailed yet. It's something that I need to do, and so I will detail it and weather it a little bit as well, to get it looking a bit more kind of grubby and lifelike. I know I said that the last 47 was my favourite locomotive I have, but if there's another one that drives it anywhere close, it's this next one. So it's a 47 again from Bachmann, this time in Intercity Swallow livery. It's 87834 Firefly. This is a wonderful model. The detail is just incredible. The out of the box it comes with one end already detailed, and the opportunity to do the other end if you want to. I probably won't, because I do want it to be able to pull stock. I may fit different couplings, although that's something I'll probably talk about at a later date. just generally it needs a little bit of light weathering and it's good to go. Firefly used to be kept for the royal trains, so generally was kept fairly clean. I don't quite want it in the pristine look that it is now, so I will give it a very light weathering just to kind of darken up the bogies a little bit and the roof, but nothing too drastic on the sides. A 21 pin chip will be fitted, so I've already picked one of those up from Zemo, so I just need to fit that at some point when I do the weathering, but even on DC it runs incredibly well, very smooth and quiet. So this Class 58001 is the very first locomotive that I owned. So I think I got this when I was 5 years old, so getting on for 30 years ago now. It's in a kind of Railfreight red, Railfreight grey with a red stripe, which is a really nice livery, I think. And whilst possibly being a little bit early for the era that I'm modelling, there probably were a few that were still around at that sort of time, so I might just be able to get away with having it on the layout. Obviously, as my very first locomotive, it's definitely something that I would like to keep, so it needs a good service, and will then probably be chipped to DCC and will run on the layout. It still works, as you see, which is quite incredible for all the years of abuse it's probably been given as I was a kid and being run round and round for hours and hours. Has a special place in my heart, and the 58s generally probably because of that do as well. And the joy of the old Hornby ones is they don't like running too much at slow speed. So the next locomotive and the last locomotive that I have in the fleet is this Class 60015 in Railfreight triple grey with the Transrail details. It's an interesting model. That I do love Class 60s, I always have. It's good to see them still kind of out on the network now, but this model kind of has good and bad, I suppose. The general shape is really good. I really like it. Certainly doesn't compare to the new Hornby super detailed version, but for an old Lima model it's very good. I don't really like the way the grills look on these Lima ones. They just look very kind of drawn on and fake, and I think if anything they look a little better on camera than they do in real life, so it's something that I'm certainly interested in trying to detail, get some etched grills and things like that, and add some buffer detailing, because it would be great to have a Class 60 on the layout at certain points. So it's certainly one that I will look to give a good service to, chip to DC and add some detailing to. I think we could have a really good model without spending as much money as required on the new Hornby super detailed version. I also really like the way that, I also really like it when stock is kind of branded without really a livery change, so it's nice to see the Railfreight triple grey still in place but with the Transrail logo just added on top. I do like that. That's the last of the locomotives in the fleet. The rest of the fleet's made up of DMUs and passenger stock, so we'll get on with that. So the first of the DMUs that I have on St Michael's Hill is this Class 122 bubble car. The model's from Dapol. It's the only Dapol locomotive that I own, and actually it's super impressive. The level of detail is incredible. The functions on the lights are also amazing. Even on DC we've got cab lighting, we've got saloon lighting and directional headlights, and it's a wonderful model. It's going to be chipped with a 21 pin decoder very soon, and will be used a lot on St Michael's Hill, especially into platform 1, which is the shorter platform. Is kind of perfectly made for a bubble car or a class 153. The next DMU in the fleet is a class 150-2, the model from Bachmann in Regional Railways livery. It's a really nice model of the DMU. There's been a little bit of criticism that the power car has kind of fully almost blacked out windows, although you can see on the back half of the power car here there is a little bit of light that does get through. And I know that's been updated on the later versions of the 150 from Bachmann, but it's kind of not too much of a problem for me, especially when the trains are going to be running and it's not something that's going to be seen too much, so that's not a problem for me. On the layout, it's going to get a lot of running. I think most of the services into St Michael's Hill will probably be made up initially of 150s or the bubble car, as we've seen already, with a few others making kind of lesser stops, so it would be something that would get a lot of use on the layout. Final DMU that I have is this class 156 from Lima and Regional Railways livery. This model is a little bit of a tricky one for me, in that I've kind of heard that to hardwire them to DCC is very tricky, as well as the fact that the detailing is pretty poor, especially on the undersides, and at the front there's no snowplows, for example. Something that I am looking to detail if possible. I really would like to get it running on the layout, as it would be good to have a bit more variety in the DMUs that would be running on the layout. So I will give it a go. It will be a challenge, probably worth making a video about how to chip the 156. Obviously, with Railtrack models coming out with class 156, it is tempting to save the money and put that towards buying a brand new class 156 in provincial livery, as this one is. So it's something that I may or may not spend the time to detail and weather and get ready for the layout. We'll see. So the penultimate loco in the fleet is this Great Western HST. As I said earlier, it's my kind of favourite livery of all time, and the HST is probably my favourite train all in all. So for me, it's a must-have on the layout. It's a real shame that it's not available in the Hornby Super Detail version that is far superior to this. This could be a really nice challenge for a weathering and maybe a little bit of detailing, but generally it's a decent model. The model is a Lima version. Of the old Hornby and Lima, I much prefer the Lima HST. The body shape is so much better around the nose, especially. The Hornby one's very flat, whereas the Lima one has a lot more of a curve that's characteristic to the prototype. So I'm pleased it's a Lima one. I know that there is a Hornby one available. I also have the Railtour Mark IIIs and obviously a dummy car to go with it. So I'm quite pleased with that, although some of those do need some work and renumbering and relettering. So the final locomotive in the fleet is a classic, so it's the Intercity HST in Swallow livery. This is the Hornby Super Detail version, which compared to the Great Western one we've just seen is miles above in terms of detail and quality. I managed to pick this up on eBay fairly soon after Hornby announced the HST that they're doing in releasing in 2018, so I got a really good price on this. I was quite amazed really that I could get it for this price. So very, very happy with it. It's a wonderful model. The detailing is amazing. The shape that's picked out is brilliant, and obviously the livery is an absolute classic and just something that I definitely need to have in the layout. Obviously it's not ever going to be calling at St Michael's Hill. There's just simply not enough room, but it's probably something that could be stabled in the sidings behind at certain points, maybe on stop moves and things like that. So it will make an appearance, but certainly not with its rake of Mark IIIs. At some point I will build a bigger layout to feature this, as it's going to be around the time of privatisation. It'll probably be with mixed rakes of Intercity Swallow livery coaches, and either Virgin or Great Western ones as well. So there is one more locomotive that I have in the fleet, although as you'll see in a second, it's something that I'm not sure really what to do with. It's a locomotive that I've had since the very, very beginning. When I got my Class 58, I also got this one very quickly afterwards. So it's a locomotive that I love. It's a bit of a strange one for various reasons that we'll have a look at, but it's something that does not fit at all in any way on St Michael's Hill. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. The locomotive is an old Hornby Class 86 in probably Intercity mainline livery. As you can see, it doesn't have a proper full number, it's just 86, and the pantograph is not working. So I probably will try and bring it back to life, get a new pantograph from Peter Spares or something, renumber it, and then look to see what I can do with it then. As I said, it's not something that could really appear at all on St Michael's Hill. I know I could probably run with a bit of licence, so it's something I might keep around, but it's not something that's going to appear much on the layout. I might do some videos about how to replace the pantograph and renumber it at some point. So thanks for joining me for this Meet the Fleet video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and there'll be more video updates very soon. Thanks very much. Bye.